Question number 1. What is an IP address? A unique string of numbers separated by periods that identifies each computer using the Internet Protocol to communicate over a network. It is 32-bit address. Example, 10.17.200.100. Question number 2. What is a subnet mask? A mask used to determine what subnet an IP address belongs to. An IP address has two components: the network address and the host address. For example, consider the IP address 150.215.017.009. Assuming this is part of a Class B network, the first two numbers, 150.215, represent the Class B network address, and the second two numbers, 017.009, identify a particular host on this network. Question number 3. What is APIPA? Stands for Automatic Private IP Addressing. APIPA is a DHCP failover mechanism for local networks. With APIPA, DHCP clients can obtain IP addresses when DHCP servers are non-functional. APIPA exists in all modern versions of Windows except Windows NT. When a DHCP server fails, APIPA allocates IP addresses in the private range 169.254.0.1 to 169.254.255.254. Question number 4. How release and renew IP address? From command prompt, ipconfig, release ipconfig, renew. Question number 5. What is loopback address? Loopback address is 127.0.0.1, an address that sends outgoing signals back to the same computer for testing. Question number 6. What is MAC address? Short for medium access control. A MAC address, also known as a physical address and hardware address, is a unique address number, formatted in hexadecimal format and given to each computer or network device on a computer network. The addresses are usually assigned by the hardware manufacturer, and these IDs are considered burned into the firmware of the network access hardware. Because of this process, some vendors use their own specific code in the hardware address. Below is an example of a MAC address: D4, B, D9, 8D, 469A, 48-bit. Question number 7. What is ARP? Address Resolution Protocol. ARP is a protocol for mapping in Internet Protocol address (IP address) to a physical machine address that is recognized in the local network. For example, in IP version 4, the most common level of IP in use today, an address is 32 bits long. In an Ethernet local area network, however, addresses for attached devices are 48 bits long. The physical machine address is also known as a Media Access Control or MAC address. A table, usually called the ARP cache, is used to maintain a correlation between each MAC address and its corresponding IP address. ARP provides the protocol rules for making this correlation and providing address conversion in both directions. Question number 8. How to display ARP cache? In Windows, go to Command Prompt, Start to Run. To CMD from Command Prompt, execute this command: ARPA, as shown below. C. Users, admin, greater than ARPA. Question number 9. What is NS Lookup? NS Lookup is a network utility program used to obtain information about Internet servers. As its name suggests, the utility finds name server information for domains by querying DNS. Question number 10. What is a default gateway? What happens if I don't have one? In general, a gateway is a device on a network that acts as an entrance to another network. In more technical terms, a gateway is a routing device that knows how to pass traffic between different subnets and networks. A computer will know some routes. A route is the address of each node a packet must go through on the Internet to reach a specific destination, but not the routes to every address on the Internet. It won't even know all the routes on the nearest subnets. A gateway will not have this information either, but will at least know the addresses of other gateways it can hand the traffic off to. Your default gateway is on the same subnet as your computer, and is the gateway your computer relies on when it doesn't know how to route traffic. If you don't have a gateway, your network communication have no problem, but you cannot communicate with other networks. That means your packet will not reach other networks. Question number 11. Can a workstation computer be configured to browse the internet and yet not have a default gateway? No, never. A workstation computer can browse the internet only if it has a default gateway. Question number 12. What is RFC? A request for comments. RFC document defines a protocol or policy used on the internet, and RFC can be submitted by anyone. Eventually, if it gains enough interest, it may evolve into an internet standard. Each RFC is designated by an RFC number. Once published, an RFC never changes. Modifications to an original RFC are assigned a new. Question number 13. What is DNS short for? Domain Name System or Domain Name Service? ADN. S is an internet or other network server that helps to point domain names or the host name to their associated IP address. If a domain name is not found within the local database, the server may query other domain servers to obtain the address of a requested domain name. For example, when a user is accessing the Google domain, a user would enter the easy-to-remember domain google.com. When entered, that requested domain name is looked up on a domain name system to translate that name into an IP address that can be better understood by computer. Using that IP address, the computers can then find the computer containing the Google web page and forward that information to your computer. Two types of lookup. In DNS forward lookup, it converts domain name to IP address. Reverse lookup, it converts IP address to domain name. Three types of zone: primary zone, secondary zone, and stub zone. Question number 14. What is SRV record? The SRV record is a domain name system DNS resource record that is used to identify computers that host specific services. For example, SRV resource records are used to locate domain controllers for Active Directory. Question number 15. What is PTR record? PTR record resolves an IP address to a fully qualified domain name, FQDN, as an opposite to what a record does. PTR records are also called reverse DNS records. PTR records are mainly used to check if the server name is actually associated with the IP address from where the connection was initiated. Question number 16. What is a record? The record A specifies IP address, IP version 4, for given host. Records are used for conversion of domain names to corresponding IP addresses. Question number 17. What is AAA quad A record? The record AAA, also quad A record, specifies IP version 6 address for given host, so it works the same way as the A record, and the difference is the type of IP address. Question number 18. What is CNAME record? The CNAME record specifies a domain name that has to be queried in order to resolve the original DNS query. Therefore, CNAME records are used for creating aliases of domain names. CNAME records are truly useful when we want to alias our domain to an external domain. In other cases, we can remove CNAME records and replace them with A records, and even decrease performance overhead. Question number 19. What is MX resource record? The MX resource record specifies a mail exchange server for a DNS domain name. The information is used by Simple Mail Transfer Protocol (SMTP) to route emails to proper hosts. Typically, there are more than one mail exchange server for a DNS domain, and each of them have set priority. Question number 20. What is DHCP? Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. DHCP is a network protocol that enables a server to automatically assign an IP address to a computer from a defined range of numbers, i.e., a scope configured for a given network. Question 21. Describe the steps taken by the client and DHCP server in order to obtain an IP address. A user turns on a computer with a DHCP client. The client computer sends a broadcast request, called a discover or DHCP discover, looking for a DHCP server to answer. The router directs the discover packet to the correct DHCP server. The server receives the discover packet based on availability and usage policies set on the server. The server determines an appropriate address, if any, to give to the client. The server then temporarily reserves that address for the client and sends back to the client an offer, or DHCP-OFFER packet, with that address information. The server also configures the client's DNS servers, Win servers, NTP servers, and sometimes other services as well. The client sends a request, or DHCP request packet, letting the server know that it intends to use the address. The server sends an ACK, or DHCP ACK packet, confirming that the client has been given a lease on the address for a server-specified period of time. When a computer uses a static IP address, it means that the computer is manually configured to use a specific IP address. One problem with static assignment, which can result from user error or inattention to detail, occurs when two computers are configured with the same IP address. This creates a conflict that results in loss of service. Using DHCP to dynamically assign IP addresses minimizes these conflicts. Advantage: it minimizes the administrative burden. By using DHCP, there is no chance to conflict IP address. Disadvantage: when client may query to DHCP server, DHCP discover, it is UDP query, it consume more bandwidth. When DHCP server is unavailable, client unable to access enterprise's network. Question 21. Question number 22. How DHCP work? DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. DHCP is a protocol used for automatic configuration IP address in client computers connected to IP networks. DHCP operates on a client-server model in 4 phases. Discover: a client broadcasts DHCP discover message when it comes alive on the network. Offer: when a DHCP server receives the DHCP discover message from the client, it reserves an IP address for the client and sends a DHCP offer message to the client offering the reserved IP address. Request: the client receives the DHCP offer message and broadcasts a DHCP request message to show its consent to accept the offered IP address. Acknowledge: when the DHCP server receives the DHCP request message from the client, it sends a DHCP acknowledge packet to the client. At this point, the IP configuration process is complete. Question number 23. What is DHCP scope? A range of IP address that the DHCP server can assign to clients that are on one subnet. Question number 24. What protocol and port does DHCP use? UDP protocol and 67 port in client and 68 port in server. Question number 25. What is a DHCP lease? A DHCP lease is the amount of time that the DHCP server grants to the DHCP client permission to use a particular IP address. A typical server allows its administrator to set the lease time. Question number 26. Can DHCP support statically defined addresses? Yes. Question number 27. Define DORA process. Question number 29. How to backup and restore DHCP in Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008. Backup of DHCP database and settings has gotten simpler. You may want to back up your DHCP server from time to time to prepare for disaster recovery scenarios or when migrating DHCP server role to a new hardware. Backup DHCP server 1. Open server. Manage your greater than DHCP role 2. Right-click server name. Choose Backup. 3. Choose a location for backup. Click OK. Restore. DHCP Server 1. Open Server Manager greater than DHCP Role 2. Right-click Server Name. Choose Restore. 3. Choose the location of the backup. Click OK. 4. Restart the DHCP service. DHCP database location. C. Windows System 32. DHCP directory. Question number 30. How do I know the path that a packet takes to the destination? We can use Tracert command line. Question number 31. What can you do with NETSH? NETSH is one of the most powerful yet least known networking tools included with Windows 2000 and Windows Server 2003. It's installed by default and is located in the system root under System 32 folder. NETSH is also available on Windows XP. NETSH enables you to display, modify, import, and export many aspects of the network parameters of a system. It can also connect remotely to other systems with a remote machine parameter, R. We can use NETSH to export and import network configurations. You can use NETSH to make dynamic IP address changes from a static IP address to DHCP simply by importing a file. Question number 32. What is Active Directory? Active Directory, AD, is a directory service that Microsoft developed for Windows domain networks and is included in most Windows Server operating systems. As a set of processes and services, a collection of services, server roles and features, used to manage identity and access for and to resources on a network. Question number 33. What is LDAP? LDAP stands for Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It is an application protocol used over an IP network to manage and access the Distributed Directory Information Service. Question number 34. Can you connect Active Directory to other third-party directory services? Name a few options. Yes, we can connect other vendors' directory services with Microsoft's version like OSD, Oracle Sun Directory, and NDS Novel Directory System. Question number 35. Where is the AD database held? What other folders are related to AD? The Active Directory database is stored in %system root %NDTS folder. Main database file for Active Directory is ntds.dit. Along with this file there are other files also present in this folder. These files are created when you run dcpromo. These are the main files controlling the AD structure. ntds.dit. This is the main database file for Active Directory. edb.log. Transaction performed to add stored in this file. res1.log. Used as reserve space in the case when drive had low space. res2.log. Same as res1.log. add.chk. This file records the transactions committed to add database when a change is made to the Win2k database, triggering a write operation. Win2k records the transaction in the log file, edb.log. Once written to the log file, the change is then written to the AD database. System performance determines how fast the system writes the data to the AD database from the log file. Anytime the system is shut down, all transactions are saved to the database. During the installation of AD, Windows creates two files, res1.log and res2.log. The initial size of each is 10 megabytes. These files are used to ensure that changes can be written to disk should the system run out of free disk space. The checkpoint file, add.chk, records transactions committed to the AD database. ntds.dit. During shutdown, a shutdown statement is written to the add.chk file. Then, during a reboot, AD determines that all transactions in the edb.log file have been committed to the AD database. If, for some reason, the add.chk file doesn't exist on reboot or the shutdown statement isn't present, AD will use the edb.log file to update the AD database. The last file in our list of files to know is the AD database itself, ntds.dit. By default, the file is located in NTDS, along with the other files we've discussed. Question number 36. What is the sysvol folder? The term sysvol refers to a set of files and folders that reside on the local hard disk of each domain controller in a domain and that are replicated by the File Replication Service (FRS). Network clients access the contents of the sysvol tree by using the netlogon and sysvol shared folders. Question number 37. How do you view replication properties for AD partitions and DCs? We can use repadmin command line tool. Question number 38. What is the global catalog? A global catalog is a domain controller that stores a copy of all Active Directory objects in a forest. The global catalog stores a full copy of all objects in the directory for its host domain and a partial copy of all objects for all other domains in the forest. The partial copies of all domain objects included in the global catalog are those most commonly used in user search operations. These attributes are marked for inclusion in the global catalog as part of their schema definition, storing the most commonly searched upon attributes of all domain objects in the global catalog provides users with efficient searches without affecting network performance. With unnecessary referrals to domain controllers, you can manually add or remove other object attributes to the global catalog by using the Active Directory schema snap-in. Question number 39. How do you view all the GCs in the forest? To find the in-GC from the command line, you can try using dsquery command. dsquery server is GC to find all the GCs in the forest. Question number 40. Why not make all DCs in a large forest as GCs, unless you have some really bad connections that may not be able to handle the extra traffic? There is no reason not to make every DC a GC in any single domain forest. It is recommended and beneficial to make all DCs GCs since it has no replication impact and serves to better distribute query load. Question number 41. How to look at the schema in AD? How can you do that? To view the schema, we must need to register schmmgmt.dll using this command. C Windows System 32 greater than regs br32 schmmgmt.dll open mmc2 add snap-in to add Active Directory schema. Name it as schema.msc. Open administrative tool to schema.msc. Question number 42. What is LDP? This GUI tool is a lightweight directory access protocol (LDAP) client that allows users to perform operations such as connect, bind, search, modify, add, delete against any LDAP-compatible directory, such as Active Directory. LDP is used to view objects stored in Active Directory along with their metadata, such as security descriptors and replication metadata. Question number 43. What is ADSIEDIT? Active Directory Registered Sign Service Interfaces Editor. ADSIEdit is a lightweight directory access protocol (LDAP) editor that you can use to manage objects and attributes in Active Directory. ADSIEdit addsideit.msc provides a view of every object and attribute in an Active Directory forest. You can use ADSIEdit to query, view, and edit attributes that are not exposed through other Active Directory. Microsoft Management Console (MMC) snap-ins, Active Directory users and computers, Active Directory sites and services, Active Directory domains and trusts, and Active Directory schema. Question number 44. What is NetDOM? Enables administrators to manage Active Directory domains and trust relationships from the command prompt. NetDOM is a command line tool that is built into Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008 R2. It is available if you have the Active Directory Domain Services (ADDS) server role installed. It is also available if you install the Active Directory Domain Services tools that are part of the Remote Server Administration Tools (RSAT). To use NetDOM, you must Run the netdom command from an elevated command prompt. To open an elevated command prompt, click Start, right-click Command Prompt, and then click Run. As administrator. Question number 45. What is REPADMIN? This command line tool assists can use repadmin to view the replication topology, sometimes referred to as repsfrom and repsto, as seen from the perspective of each domain controller. In addition, repadmin can be used to manually create the replication topology, although in normal practice, this should not be necessary, to force replication events between domain controllers, and to view both the replication metadata and up-to-dateness vectors. Repadmin.x can also be used for monitoring and show vector. Latency can be used to check for replication problems. Usually, the Knowledge Consistency Checker (KCC) manages the replication topology for each naming context held on domain controllers. Question number 46. What is DSAstat? This command line diagnostic tool compares and detects differences between naming contexts on domain controllers. DSAstat can be used to compare two directory trees across replicas within the same domain or, in the case of a global catalog, across different domains. The tool retrieves capacity statistics such as megabytes per server, objects per server, and megabytes per object class, and performs comparisons of attributes of replicated objects. Question number 47. What is DNSLint? DNSLint is a Microsoft Windows utility that helps you to diagnose common DNS name resolution issues. DNSLint has three functions that verify domain name system DNS records and generate an HTML report. The three functions are DNSLint D. This diagnoses potential causes of lame delegation and other related DNS problems. DNSLint QL. This verifies a user-defined set of DNS records on multiple DNS servers. DNSLint Add. This verifies DNS records specifically used for Active Directory replication. Question number 48. What is DCDiag? Analyzes the state of domain controllers in a forest or enterprise and reports any problems to help in troubleshooting. As an end-user reporting program, DCDiag is a command line tool that encapsulates detailed knowledge of how to identify abnormal behavior in the system. DCDiag displays command output at the command prompt. DCDiag consists of a framework for executing tests and a series of tests to verify different functional areas of the system. This framework selects which domain controllers are tested according to scope directives from the user, such as enterprise, site, or single server. Question number 49. What is ACLDiag tool? This command line tool detects and reports discrepancies in the access control lists (ACLs) of objects in Active Directory. It can also reapply a security delegation template to an ACL, eliminating special permissions and restoring incomplete delegations. With ACLDiag, you can display the access control entries (ACEs) in the ACL, and inheritance and audit settings, display the effective permissions of users and groups to an Active Directory object, compare the ACL for an object in Active Directory to the default permissions defined in the schema, compare the ACL of an Active Directory object to a delegation template, reapply the delegation template to the ACL of an Active Directory object. Question number 50. ntdsutil.x is a command line tool that provides management facilities for Active Directory Domain Services (ADDS) and Active Directory Lightweight Directory Services (ADLDS). You can use the ntdsutil commands to perform database maintenance of ADDS, manage and control single master operations, and remove metadata left behind by domain controllers that were removed from the network without being properly uninstalled. This tool is intended for use by experienced administrators. ntdsutil.x is built into Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008 R2. It is available if you have the ADDS or the ADLDS server role installed. It is also available if you install the Active Directory domain services tools that are part of the remote server administration tools RSAT. For more information, to use ntdsutil.x, you must run the ntdsutil command from an elevated command prompt. To open an elevated command prompt, click Start, right-click Command Prompt, and then click Run. As administrator, if you have the ADLDS server role installed, but not the ADDS server role, you can use the dsdbutil.x and dsmgmt.x command line tools to perform the same tasks that you can perform with ntdsutil.x.